This is a catalogue for the Birmingham gun manufacturer Charles Osborne, and trade catalogues are fascinating items. In good condition, they're quite rare to find. In fact, in any condition, 19th century trade catalogues are not easy to find, but they yield so much information that we're always looking for them. In fact, we're always looking for any ephemera to do with manufacturers of items in our field. So let's have a closer look at this catalogue and see what it can tell us about Charles Osborne's business. So at the beginning of the catalogue, we've got this wonderful front page which tells us all about Charles Osborne's business. We can see the title to the top. It tells you exactly what the catalogue is: patterns of sporting, muzzle and breech loading, guns, revolvers, rifles and implements. And in the middle, we've got this wonderful illustration of the Osborne factory. And Charles Osborne started in business in 1838, not at this address, but at 1 Lichfield Street. In 1854, they moved to 12 and 13 Whittles Street. And then in the year that this catalogue was produced, 1889, they also took on number 14 Whittles Street. We can also see further addresses down here: London, Edinburgh, Glasgow. And these addresses were established by 1885. We can also see that the catalogue is lithographically printed, and the printer was John Cately of Birmingham. So that gives us quite a lot of information already, and we haven't even looked at the contents of the catalogue. Well, there's 64 numbered pages in the catalogue, and 61 are illustrated. They're all illustrated on only one side, apart from one page, and we'll come to that later. So we can see that he starts off with single muzzle loading guns. And you'll also see through this catalogue there are some amendments made in red ink. Some are price changes, some are items that are no longer produced, etc., etc. Now we move on to muzzle loading double guns. It's quite interesting seeing all the decorative engraving that Osborne did on his guns, on his shotguns. So single and double collectors guns. So presumably those might have been limited edition, or there was something else special about them to make them stand out. Single breech loading guns, breech loading double guns. Again, lovely engraving on the metalwork. So you can also see the different variations on each gun that you could get. Fine twist barrels, bar rebounding locks, snap forend, Damascus barrels, left choke bore, fine Damascus barrels, extended rib, best locks, etc., with different prices for each. So quite a lot of choice for the buyer. Hammerless breech loading double guns. Quite nice illustrations with the cartridges shown going into the double barrel guns. Breech loading with a patent automatic ejector. Presumably that's what they're trying to get across, the cartridge being ejected. So there was a lot of choice for shotguns at the end of the 19th century from Osborne. But you could also buy breech loading rook and rabbit rifles. So not only did Osborne produce his own guns, but he also sold for other companies. He was an agent for other companies. So here we can see Colt and Winchester repeating and single shot rifles advertised in his catalogue. Bullard and Remington repeating and single shot rifles. And also military rifles and carbines. Here's a Martini Henry at the top, Bullard magazine rifle, and a Lee magazine rifle with detachable magazine down here. More shotguns, this time breech loading express and sporting rifles. Duck guns, hammerless duck guns, and again, I mean, just look at this engraving, a wonderful scene of ducks on a pond. The amount of work that must have gone into all of these illustrations by artists is incredible. Yes, they'd be used year after year, but still, to produce these in the first place was an awful lot of very skilled work. So punt guns. A punt gun is a very long gun that you would use, shotgun that you would use for shooting waterfowl. And as its name suggests, it would be mounted on a punt. These ones are 7 foot 6 inches long on the barrel, but they also got longer than that. So really quite large guns. You can see this one at the top, it's got an 8-foot barrel, although it was also available in 6 foot. Porpoise guns, harpoon guns for whaling. Single shot pistols for scaring birds. Saloon pistols, Colts, Derringers. See this one, it says stock nearly exhausted, and the price has dropped from for the cartridges 18 per pair to 12. Colt's revolvers, breech loading. This illustration up here showing the extracting arrangement, all of the spent cartridges falling out. Smith & Wesson revolvers. More revolvers, breech loading. And these two very nasty looking implements, knuckle dusters. You wouldn't want to be hit by one of those, especially this one with the spikes on the end. Then we come into alarm guns, presumably to deter poachers, scare them off. And alarm guns for scaring birds. This one, a patent automatic field clock gun, so it would go off at set times. And then we come into different parts of a gun that you could buy to do repairs or perhaps make up your own guns. So you've got gun limbs, filed gun limbs, hammers, sold by the dozen. More gun limbs and gun worms. Further implements. I'm going to try and move through these quite quickly because there's an awful lot to see. You've got turn screws, keys, powder and shot measures, oil bottles, cartridge extractors, breech loading implements, and Osborne didn't just sell guns but also everything else that you might need while shooting. So you've got cartridge bags and game bags, you've got cases to protect your guns when not being used, you've got revolver holsters and belts, cartridge belts, old-fashioned powder flasks, even wood duck decoys. And of course, if you're out shooting, you might need a nip of whiskey or brandy to warm you up. So you've got dram bottles and also whistles, police whistles, conductors' whistles, all sorts. And leg irons. Of course, if you're shooting, you've probably got dogs as well. So you've got dog slips and couples. Whips, collars and chains, more game bags, more requisites for rifles, and walking sticks that are guns or air rifles. So you can see at the top here and also further down. Walking sticks, guns disguised as walking sticks. German Quackenbush air rifles. And a patent hawk kite down here in the corner. More air pistols, but also targets. And also a bronzed gun rack to take 3 guns there. Rabbit traps. These are all looking very mean. Glass ball traps. Clay pigeon traps. And this is the one page which has got an illustration to the back. And presumably this clay pigeon trap was too late to get into the original catalogue, and so it was added at the relevant section of the catalogue later. One here scrubbed out in red, so presumably discontinued. We've even got signal guns for yachts, price upon application. Now we've gone past all of the illustrations, and the remaining 3 or 4 pages are sundries, so mostly ammunition with prices. So there's an awful lot to learn from this catalogue. And we know that it was probably a shop copy for one of Osborne's own shops. They would have also had salesmen who would travel the country, and would probably have one of these catalogues. But the difference being that the information about Osborne's would be limited to, if there at all, to protect the salesman, so that his customers couldn't go behind his back and take away his commission for sales. So there we have it. Quite a rare catalogue, dated 1889 for Charles Osborne and Co. of Birmingham. And a very, very interesting book. They became a limited company in 1896, and then they were bought out by Skimming and Wood, who were also a Birmingham company in 1929. So they were in existence for close to 100 years, and their work enjoys quite a good reputation. But a scarce catalogue and full of wonderful information.